Sandra Day O'Connor, first female Supreme Court Justice. This is a quiet night, my dear. The moon hangs low in the sky, like a soft lantern shining through the window, casting silvery streaks across your bed and onto the walls. The world outside has sunk into a gentle silence. No loud noises, no hurried footsteps, no cars honking in the distance, only the soft rustle of leaves in the cool night breeze and the steady, rhythmic sound of your own breath. It is a night of peace, a night of rest, a night to let go of the day's worries and drift into the warmth of a story. Tonight, we are going to tell a story of courage, of breaking barriers, and of a woman who turned impossible into possible, one gentle step at a time. I love you, my sweet, and as you listen, let your eyes grow heavy, let your heart feel warm, for this is a story of hope, wrapped in the quiet of the night, a story that will linger in your dreams like a soft lullaby. Close your eyes, my darling. Let us drift back in time, to a night much like this one, but many years ago, 1930, in the wide, sun-warmed lands of Texas, in a town called El Pozo. The air smells of sagebrush and warm earth, of cattle, and the faint sweetness of wildflowers that grow along the edges of the dusty roads. The houses are low and wide, with wooden porches where families sit in the evening, fanning themselves with palm leaves and talking softly, their voices mixing with the cricket's chirp and the distant hoot of an owl. The sky is a deep, inky blue, dotted with more stars than you have ever seen, bright, twinkling, like tiny lights guiding the way home. There are no cars rushing by with loud engines, no phones beeping or screens glowing to disrupt the peace. Instead, you hear the clip-clop of horses' hooves on dirt roads, the distant low of cattle grazing in the fields, the laughter of children chasing fireflies that flicker like tiny magic lanterns in the dusk, and the soft strum of a guitar from a nearby porch, the notes floating on the wind like a gentle song. The women wear long dresses with aprons, their hair tied back in simple buns, their hands calloused from cooking and cleaning and tending to their families. The men wear wide-brimmed hats and boots dusted with soil from the fields or ranches, their faces tanned by the hot sun, their hands strong from hard work. This is a time when the world told women what they could and could not do. My dear, listen closely, for this is a truth that shaped the life of the woman we are going to talk about. I remember, my sweet, back then, many people believed that women did not belong in courtrooms, that they could not be lawyers, that their place was only in the home, cooking and caring for children, mending clothes and keeping the house tidy. They said women were not strong enough or smart enough to make big decisions, to uphold justice, to stand before judges and juries and speak for what is right. They said women were too soft, too emotional, to handle the weight of the law, the gravity of justice, the responsibility of deciding the fate of others. It was a world that boxed women in, that told them their dreams were too big, their aspirations too bold, their voices too quiet to be heard. Imagine, my sweet, a little girl named Sandra. She was born on March 26, 1930, on a big ranch called Lazy Bay, in Arizona, not far from Texas. The ranch was vast, nearly 200,000 acres of open land, where the sky stretched on forever, unbroken by buildings or trees, and the stars were brighter than you have ever seen, so bright they seemed to touch the earth. Sandra grew up there, with the wind in her hair and the sun on her face, surrounded by the beauty of nature, the rolling hills, the tall sagebrush, the clear, cool streams that ran through the ranch, the cattle that grazed peacefully in the fields. Lazy B was not just a ranch, it was a world of its own. Sandra's family lived in a simple, wooden house with no electricity, no running water, no modern comforts that we take for granted today. But Sandra did not mind. She loved the ranch, loved the freedom of running through the fields, loved the sound of the wind in the grass, loved the way the sun rose over the hills each morning, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. She learned to ride horses like a cowboy, sitting tall in the saddle, her hair blowing in the wind, her hands steady on the reins. She learned to mend fences, hammering nails into wooden posts with a strength that surprised even the ranch hands. She learned to use a rifle to protect the cattle from coyotes and other wild animals, her aim true and steady, her heart brave. She even learned to drive a big truck, navigating the bumpy dirt roads of the ranch with skill and confidence, her small hands gripping the steering wheel, her eyes focused on the path ahead. Her mother, Ada May, was a smart, kind woman who loved to read. Every evening, after the day's work was done, Ada May would sit with Sandra by the fire, reading to her for hours. Newspapers, books, stories of justice and courage, stories of people who stood up for what was right, even when it was hard. Sandra fell in love with words, with the way they could paint pictures in her mind, with the way they could inspire hope, with the idea that laws could be fair, that everyone deserved to be treated equally, no matter who they were, no matter where they came from. She would listen closely, her eyes wide with wonder, her heart filled with a quiet determination that one day she would be part of that world of justice, that she would use her voice to help others. But even as a little girl, Sandra felt the weight of the world's expectations. When she told her teachers at the small, one-room schoolhouse near the ranch that she wanted to be a lawyer, they shook their heads, their faces filled with doubt. "Girls don't become lawyers, Sandra," they said, their voices soft but firm. "That's a man's job. You should focus on learning to cook, to sew, to be a good wife and mother. That's what women do." When she dreamed of standing in a courtroom, of wearing a robe, of helping people who had been wronged, people laughed and said she was being silly, that she was living in a fantasy, that her dream would never come true. That was the unfairness of the time, my dear. It was not a cruelty done with anger or malice, but a blindness, a belief that some people were not allowed to chase their dreams, just because of who they were, just because they were women. Sandra saw this unfairness every day, and it hurt her heart. She saw her mother, who was smart and kind, who loved to read and learn, never get the chance to use her talents outside the home. She saw other women in the community, who were brave and wise, who had big dreams and kind hearts, being told they were not good enough, that their opinions did not matter, that their place was in the shadows. Once, when Sandra was about 7 years old, she went into town with her father, Harry. They stopped at the local general store, where a group of men were sitting around a table, talking about the law, about judges and juries, about justice. Sandra stood quietly, listening, her eyes wide with curiosity. When she asked one of the men what a judge did, he laughed and patted her on the head. "A judge is a man who makes important decisions, little girl," he said. "Women don't do that. Go play with your dolls." Sandra felt her face grow hot, her heart sink. She turned away, holding back tears, and ran to her father's side. "Daddy," she said, her voice trembling, Can I be a judge when I grow up?" Her father looked at her, his eyes soft with love, and said, "Sandra, you can be anything you want to be, if you work hard enough. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Those words stayed with her, my dear, like a seed planted in her heart, a seed that would grow into courage and determination, but Sandra did not give up. I remember, my dear, never give up, even when the world says you can't. Even when people laugh at your dreams, even when they tell you you're not good enough, even when the path ahead seems dark and difficult, never give up. Sandra studied hard, harder than anyone else in her class. She read every book she could get her hands on, books about law, books about history, books about courage and resilience. She did her homework carefully, her handwriting neat and precise, her answers thoughtful and intelligent. She asked questions, lots of questions, because she wanted to learn, because she wanted to understand the world around her, because she wanted to be ready to chase her dream. When she was 16 years old, Sandra graduated from high school. She was the valedictorian of her class, the top student, the one everyone looked up to. She was ready to go to college, ready to take the next step toward her dream. But college was not easy for women back then. Most colleges did not accept women, or they only accepted a small number, treating them as second-class students. But Sandra was determined. She applied to Stanford University, one of the most prestigious colleges in the country, a place where only a few women were allowed to study. She waited anxiously for the letter, her heart racing every time the mailman came. And then, one day, the letter arrived. She had been accepted. Sandra jumped for joy, her eyes filled with tears of happiness. She was going to Stanford. She was one step closer to her dream. Stanford was a world away from Lazy Bay. The campus was filled with tall buildings, with libraries full of books, with students from all over the country, with professors who were experts in their fields. Sandra was one of only a handful of women in her class, surrounded by men who often looked down on her, who thought she did not belong there, who tried to make her feel unwelcome. But Sandra did not let that stop her. She studied hard, harder than ever before. She took classes in economics first, but soon she found her true love, the law. The law fascinated her, the way it could protect people, the way it could ensure fairness, the way it could change lives. She knew, in her heart, that this was what she was meant to do. She applied to Stanford Law School, and once again, she was accepted. She was one of only 9 women in a class of 102 students, a tiny minority, but she did not let that intimidate her. She worked day and night, reading books, studying cases, practicing her arguments, staying up late into the night by the light of a lamp, her eyes tired but her heart full of passion. She was brilliant, my sweet, sharp, thoughtful, and full of passion. She had a way of seeing both sides of an argument, of understanding different perspectives, of speaking with clarity and grace. Her professors noticed her talent, her hard work, her determination. They praised her, encouraged her, told her she had a bright future in the law. But when she graduated, at the top of her class, 3rd in her law school class, an extraordinary achievement for a woman in those days, she could not find a job. She sent applications to law firms all across the country, but every one of them turned her down. Law firms told her, "We don't hire women lawyers. This is a man's profession." One firm even offered her a secretarial job, saying that was the only place for a woman in a law office, that her job would be to type letters, answer phones, make coffee, not to practice law. Can you imagine, my dear? Working so hard, being so good, graduating at the top of your class, and still being turned away, just because you are a girl? It would have been easy to quit, to give up on her dream, to settle for a life that was less than what she deserved. But Sandra was not easy to discourage. She was brave, she was resilient, she was determined to make her dream come true. She took a job as a deputy county attorney in San Mateo County, California, working for little pay, just to be near the law, just to learn and grow, just to prove that she could do the job as well as any man. She worked long hours, handling small cases, traffic tickets, minor thefts, small claims, but she took every case seriously, every client seriously. She listened to people, she cared about their problems, she fought for them with all her heart. She proved to everyone around her that she was capable, that she was smart, that she belonged in the courtroom. Slowly but surely, people began to respect her, to see her as more than just a woman lawyer, to see her as a talented, dedicated professional. Let me tell you a little story within our story, my darling, a story of a young girl named Maria, who lived near Sandra's ranch when Sandra was a child. Maria was about the same age as Sandra, with dark hair and bright, curious eyes. She loved to read, just like Sandra, loved to lose herself in stories of faraway places, of brave heroes, of people who overcame hardship. But her father, a hard-working ranch hand, did not believe that girls needed an education. Girls don't need to read or write, he would say, his voice gruff. Your job is to help your mother cook and clean, to mend clothes, to take care of your little brothers and sisters, and one day marry and have children of your own. Education is for boys, who will grow up to be ranchers or lawyers or doctors. Maria cried at night, because she wanted to learn, to read books about faraway places, to dream of being something more than a wife and mother. She wanted to be a teacher, to help other children learn, to share her love of books with them. But she was afraid to tell her father, afraid of his anger, afraid of being told she was being silly. One day, Sandra visited Maria's family, accompanying her father on a trip to deliver supplies to the ranch where Maria's family lived. Sandra saw Maria hiding a book under her apron, reading quietly when her father was not looking, her eyes glued to the pages, her face lit up with joy. Sandra sat down with her, in the corner of the small, cozy kitchen, where the smell of bread baking filled the air. "What are you reading?" Sandra asked, her voice soft and kind. Maria jumped, startled, and quickly tried to hide the book, but Sandra smiled and shook her head. "It's okay," she said. "I love to read too." Maria relaxed, her eyes filling with tears, and showed Sandra the book, a tattered copy of Little Women, a story about 4 sisters who chased their dreams, who were brave and kind and strong. "I want to be like Jo," Maria said, her voice trembling. "She writes stories, she's brave, she doesn't let anyone tell her what to do. But my father says I can't. He says girls don't do things like that." "You can be anything you want to be," Sandra told her, her voice soft but strong, her hand resting gently on Maria's shoulder. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Education is a gift. and it's yours to keep. It doesn't matter if you're a girl or a boy. If you work hard, if you never give up, you can achieve your dreams. I want to be a lawyer, and people tell me I can't, but I'm not going to stop trying. And you shouldn't stop trying either. Maria smiled, a small, shy smile, and for the first time, she believed that maybe, just maybe, her dreams could come true. She hugged Sandra tightly, and the two girls sat together for hours, reading and talking, sharing their dreams, their fears, their hopes for the future. That is the power of kindness, my dear. Even a small act, even a few kind words, can light a fire in someone's heart, can give them the courage to chase their dreams. Years passed, and Sandra kept working, kept fighting, kept chasing her dream. She met a young man named John O'Connor, who was also a law student at Stanford. John was kind, intelligent, and supportive. He believed in Sandra, believed in her dream, believed that she could be a great lawyer. They fell in love, and after graduating, they got married. Soon, they had 3 sons, Scott, Brian, and Jay, and Sandra became a wife and a mother, but she never gave up on her career. She balanced her family life with her work, waking up early to take care of her children, going to work during the day, coming home at night to read to her boys, to tuck them into bed, to listen to their stories. She showed the world that a woman could be a wife, a mother, and a professional, all at the same time, all with grace and strength. When John was drafted into the U.S. Army, Sandra moved with him to Germany, where she worked as a civil lawyer for the U.S. Army. It was a challenging job, but Sandra thrived. She handled cases involving military personnel and their families, helping them with legal problems, fighting for their rights, ensuring they were treated fairly. She worked with people from all over the world, from different backgrounds, different cultures, and she learned to respect and understand different perspectives. She also learned to be even more resilient, to adapt to new situations, to handle challenges with grace and courage. When they came back to the United States, Sandra and John settled in Arizona, where Sandra grew up. She kept fighting for her place in the law, kept working hard, kept proving herself. She ran for the Arizona State Senate, and she won. She was one of the first women to serve in the Arizona State Senate, and later, she became the first woman to serve as majority leader of the Arizona State Senate. It was a historic achievement, my dear, a moment when the world began to see that women could be leaders, that they could make important decisions, that they could shape the future of their state. As a state senator, Sandra worked tirelessly to improve the lives of the people of Arizona. She fought for better education, for fair housing, for equal rights for women and minorities. She listened to her constituents, she cared about their problems, she worked across party lines to get things done. She was known for her fairness, her kindness, her ability to bring people together, even when they disagreed. She showed the world that leadership is not about being tough or loud, but about being kind, about listening, about doing what is right for the people you serve. After serving in the state senate, Sandra was appointed to the Arizona Court of Appeals, where she served as a judge. She loved being a judge. She loved the opportunity to uphold justice, to ensure that everyone was treated fairly, to listen to both sides of an argument and make a decision based on the law and on what was right. She was a fair judge, a thoughtful judge, a judge who cared about the people who came before her. She never forgot where she came from, never forgot the little girl on the ranch who dreamed of being a lawyer, never forgot the unfairness she had faced, and that made her a better judge, a judge who understood the struggles of ordinary people. She was kind, my dear. She listened to people, even when she disagreed with them. She believed that justice was not about being tough, but about being fair, about seeing both sides, about doing what is right, even when it is hard, even when it is unpopular. She worked long hours, but she always made time for her family, for her 3 sons, for her husband. She attended their school events, their sports games, their graduation ceremonies. She read to them at night. She listened to their problems. She encouraged them to chase their own dreams. She showed the world that a woman could be a wife, a mother, and a leader, all at the same time, all with love and grace. Then, in 1981, something extraordinary happened. Something that would change the course of history. Something that would make Sandra's dream come true in a way she could never have imagined. The President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, announced that he would nominate Sandra Day O'Connor to be a Justice of the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, the court that makes the most important decisions in the country, the court that interprets the Constitution and ensures that the law is fair and just for all. For more than 200 years, the Supreme Court had been made up of only men. No woman had ever sat on that bench, had ever helped make the most important decisions in the country, had ever had a voice in shaping the future of the nation. When President Reagan announced Sandra's nomination, the country was shocked. Some people were excited, some were worried, some were angry, some did not think a woman belonged on the Supreme Court. But Sandra was calm, she was steady, she was ready. She knew that this was a moment, her chance to prove that women could be leaders, that women could uphold justice, that women belonged in the highest levels of government. Close your eyes again, my sweet, and imagine that day, the day of Sandra's confirmation hearing before the U.S. Senate. The Senate chamber was filled with people, all watching, all waiting, all holding their breath. The air was tense. Some people were excited, eager to see a woman take her place on the Supreme Court. Some were worried, afraid that she would not be able to handle the job. Some were determined to oppose her, to keep the Supreme Court an all-male institution. But Sandra stood tall, calm, and steady, her back straight, her head held high, her eyes filled with confidence and grace. The senators asked her questions, hard questions, tough questions, questions about the law, about justice, about her beliefs, about her experience. They asked her about her childhood on the ranch, about her struggles as a woman in the law, about her views on important issues like abortion, civil rights, and the role of the government. But Sandra answered every question with clarity, with wisdom, with honesty. She did not dodge difficult questions, she did not give vague answers. She spoke from her heart, from her experience, from her deep belief in justice and fairness. The sun streamed through the windows of the Senate chamber, warm and golden, casting a soft light on Sandra as she spoke. You could hear the ticking of the clock, the soft murmur of voices, the rustle of papers, the occasional cough. The room was so quiet. You could hear a pin drop when Sandra spoke. She spoke of her childhood on Lazy Bay, of the lessons she had learned there. Lessons about hard work, about kindness, about never giving up, about treating others with respect. She spoke of her struggles as a woman in the law, of the unfairness she had faced, of her determination to break barriers and make a difference. She spoke of her belief in justice, in fairness, in the idea that everyone deserves to be treated equally, no matter who they are, no matter where they come from. And then, the vote came. The senators cast their votes, one by one, and the room waited in silence. And when the votes were counted, the result was unanimous. Every senator voted yes. Sandra Day O'Connor became the first woman to serve on the Supreme Court of the United States. The chamber erupted in applause, loud and warm, and Sandra smiled, her eyes filled with tears of happiness and pride. She had done it. She had broken the barrier. She had made her dream come true. She had opened the door for other women to follow in her footsteps. It was a turning point, my dear. A moment when the world changed, just a little, but in a way that would last forever. For the first time, young girls all across the country looked up and saw someone who looked like them, someone who had chased a dream and made it come true, someone who had broken barriers and shown that women could be leaders, could be judges, could be anything they wanted to be. They saw that they were not limited by their gender, that their dreams were valid, that their voices mattered. They saw that if Sandra could do it, so could they. I remember, my sweet, a little girl named Emily, who was 7 years old when Sandra was confirmed to the Supreme Court. Emily lived in a small town in Ohio, and she loved to watch the news with her parents. When she saw Sandra on television, standing tall in the Senate chamber, smiling, surrounded by applause, she turned to her mother and said, "Mommy, can I be a Supreme Court justice too?" Her mother smiled and hugged her, and said, "Of course you can, Emily." Sandra Day O'Connor showed us that anything is possible if you work hard and never give up. Emily's eyes lit up, and from that day on, she dreamed of being a judge, of upholding justice, of making a difference. Just like Sandra. Sandra once said, "We expect that 25 years from now, the use of racial preferences will no longer be necessary to further the interest approved today." She wrote those words in a case called Grutter versus Bollinger, where she talked about fairness in college admissions, about the importance of diversity, about the need to ensure that everyone has a chance to succeed, no matter the color of their skin, no matter where they come from. Let me explain that to you, my sweet, in gentle words, so that you can understand. Back then, many colleges and universities used racial preferences in their admissions process. They would give special consideration to students from minority groups, to help them get into college, to increase diversity on campus. Sandra believed that this was a good thing, but she also believed that it should not be permanent. She believed that one day, everyone should be treated the same, no matter the color of their skin, no matter where they come from, no matter their background. She believed that fairness is not about giving special treatment to some, but about making sure that everyone has a chance to succeed, that everyone has access to a good education, that everyone is given the opportunity to chase their dreams. That is what justice means, my dear. Everyone getting a fair shot, everyone being seen and heard, everyone being treated with dignity and respect. Another story within our story, my darling. This one is about a young lawyer named Lisa, who was just starting out when Sandra became a Supreme Court justice. Lisa was in her early 20s, fresh out of law school, full of passion and idealism, but also full of fear. She had always wanted to be a judge, but she had been told, over and over, that women could not be judges, that they were too emotional, too soft, that they could not handle the weight of the job, the gravity of justice. She had even been told by a professor in law school that she should stick to family law, that she was not tough enough for criminal law or constitutional law. Lisa was scared. She was scared that she would never be taken seriously, that she would never get the chance to be a judge, that her dream would never come true. She was ready to give up, to take a job as a family law attorney and settle for a life that was less than what she deserved. But one day, Lisa watched Sandra speak on television. She saw how calm and strong Sandra was, how she listened to others, how she made fair decisions, how she handled difficult questions with grace and wisdom. She saw how Sandra had broken barriers, how she had overcome the same fears and doubts that Lisa was feeling. Lisa felt a spark of hope, a spark that she had not felt in a long time. She thought, if she can do it, so can I. If she can break the barrier, if she can become a Supreme Court justice, then I can become a judge too. She kept working, kept studying, kept fighting. She took a job as a clerk for a judge, working long hours, learning everything she could, proving herself every day. She handled difficult cases, she fought for her clients, she showed everyone around her that she was capable, that she was smart, that she belonged in the courtroom. Eventually, Lisa became a judge, just like she had dreamed. She served on the local circuit court, handling criminal cases, civil cases, family cases. She was a fair judge, a kind judge, a judge who cared about the people who came before her. She never forgot the lesson she had learned from Sandra. Never give up, even when the world says you can't, even when you're scared, even when the path ahead seems dark. And she told every young girl she met that they could do anything they set their minds to, that their dreams were valid, that their voices mattered. She became a role model, just like Sandra, inspiring other young women to chase their dreams, to break barriers, to make a difference. But change is not easy, my dear. Even after Sandra became a Supreme Court justice, there were still people who did not agree with her, who did not think she belonged there, who tried to stop her, to question her decisions, to undermine her authority. Some people wrote her hate mail, some people protested outside the Supreme Court, some people called her names, saying she was not qualified, that she was a token, that she was ruining the Supreme Court. There were times when she felt tired, when she felt discouraged, when she wondered if she could keep going, if all her hard work was worth it. But she remembered why she started. For the little girls like Maria, for the young women like Lisa, for the little girl she had been on the ranch, dreaming of being a lawyer. She remembered the unfairness she had faced, the barriers she had broken, the hope she had given to so many people. She remembered her mother's words, her father's encouragement, her husband's support, her son's love. And she kept going. She kept working, kept fighting, kept upholding justice, kept making a difference. She knew that her work was not just about her, it was about the future, about the young girls who would come after her, about creating a world where everyone is treated fairly, where everyone has a chance to chase their dreams. She served on the Supreme Court for 24 years, my sweet, 24 years of hard work, 24 years of making important decisions, 24 years of upholding justice, 24 years of inspiring others. She made decisions that changed the country, decisions that shaped the lives of millions of people. She voted to protect the right to choose, to uphold a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. She voted to uphold fairness in education, to ensure that all students have access to a good education, regardless of their background. She voted to defend the rights of all people, women, minorities, the poor, the marginalized, ensuring that they were treated with dignity and respect. She was often the swing vote, the one whose decision would make the difference between two sides, the one who could tip the balance. When the other justices were split evenly, it was Sandra who made the final decision. And every time, she chose what she thought was fair, what she thought was right, what she thought was in the best interest of the American people. She did not let politics or pressure influence her decisions. She let the law, her conscience, and her deep belief in justice guide her. She was a voice of reason, a voice of fairness, a voice of hope in a world that was often divided. She also wrote a book called Lazy Bee, growing up on a cattle ranch in the American West, about her childhood on the ranch, about the lessons she learned there, lessons about hard work, about kindness, about never giving up, about the importance of family, about the beauty of nature. She wanted people to know where she came from, to know that even a girl from a remote ranch in Arizona, with no electricity or running water, could grow up to be a Supreme Court justice. She wanted to inspire others, to show them that their background does not define them, that their dreams are within reach if they work hard and never give up. The book was a bestseller, and it touched the hearts of millions of people. It was not just a story about her childhood. It was a story about courage, about resilience, about hope, about the power of dreams. People from all over the country, from all walks of life, read the book and were inspired by Sandra's story. They saw themselves in her struggles, in her dreams, in her determination. They realized that they too could overcome hardship, that they too could chase their dreams, that they too could make a difference. When her husband, John, became sick with Alzheimer's disease, a terrible illness that robs people of their memory, their ability to think, their ability to recognize their loved ones, Sandra made a hard decision. She retired from the Supreme Court, to spend more time with him, to care for him, to be by his side in his time of need. It was a difficult decision, my dear. She loved being a Supreme Court justice, she loved her work, she loved making a difference. But she loved John more, and she knew that he needed her. That is love, my dear, putting the people you care about first, even when it means giving up something you love, even when it means making a sacrifice. It is the greatest gift we can give to others, and Sandra gave it freely to John, but her work was not done. Even after retiring from the Supreme Court, Sandra spent the rest of her life advocating for judicial independence, the idea that judges should be free to make decisions based on the law and their conscience, not on politics or pressure. She advocated for the rule of law, for the idea that no one is above the law, that everyone, rich or poor, powerful or weak, should be treated equally under the law. She advocated for the idea that everyone deserves a fair trial, that everyone has the right to be heard, that everyone has the right to justice. She traveled across the country, giving speeches, talking to students, to lawyers, to judges, to ordinary people, sharing her story, inspiring others to stand up for justice, to fight for fairness, to never give up on their dreams. She started a program called Our Courts, which teaches young people about the law, about the Constitution, about the importance of justice and civic responsibility. She wanted to ensure that the next generation of Americans understood the law, respected the law, and were prepared to uphold justice and fairness in their own lives. Let me tell you one more little story, my darling. a teacher named Mrs. Carter, who taught in a small school in Arizona, not far from where Sandra grew up. Mrs. Carter was a kind, dedicated teacher who loved her students, who wanted to inspire them to be brave, to be kind, to chase their dreams. She used to tell her students about Sandra Day O'Connor, about her childhood on the ranch, about her struggles as a woman in the law, about her journey to the Supreme Court, about her legacy of courage and fairness. Every year, on Sandra's birthday, Mrs. Carter would read excerpts from Sandra's book to her students, would show them pictures of Sandra, would talk to them about the importance of never giving up, of standing up for what is right, of breaking barriers. One day, a little girl in her class, named Mia, raised her hand and said, "Mrs. Carter, can I be a Supreme Court justice too? I'm a girl, and I want to help people. I want to be fair. I want to make a difference." Mrs. Carter smiled and said, "Of course you can, Mia." Sandra Day O'Connor showed us that anything is possible if you work hard and never give up. She was a little girl just like you, with big dreams, and she made them come true. You can too. You are brave, you are smart, you are kind, and you have the power to change the world. MIA's eyes lit up, and she smiled, a big, bright smile. From that day on, Mia worked hard in school, read every book she could get her hands on, asked lots of questions, and never gave up on her dream. Years later, Mia went to college, studied law, and became a lawyer. She worked hard, she fought for justice, she helped people who had been wronged. And eventually, she became a judge, just like Sandra. She often thought of Mrs. Carter's words, of Sandra's story, and she tried to be just like Sandra, fair, kind, brave, resilient. She told every young girl she met that they could do anything they set their minds to, that their dreams were valid, that their voices mattered. She became a role model, just like Sandra, inspiring a new generation of young women to chase their dreams, to break barriers, to make a difference. Sandra's legacy lives on, my sweet. After she became the first female Supreme Court justice, 5 more women followed in her footsteps: Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, Amy Coney Barrett, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who became a close friend and ally of Sandra's. Today, 4 of the 9 Supreme Court justices are women, a testament to Sandra's courage, her determination, her legacy. Young girls all across the country, all across the world, look up to her, and they know that they can chase their dreams, no matter what anyone says, no matter what barriers stand in their way. Sandra passed away on December 1st, 2023, at the age of 93. But her legacy lives on, in the women who serve on the Supreme Court, in the young girls who dream of being judges and lawyers and leaders, in the people who fight for justice and fairness, in the kindness and courage she showed to the world. She was a trailblazer, a pioneer, a woman of courage and resilience, a woman who changed the world, one gentle step at a time. Remember, my dear, this is why her story matters. It is not just a story about a woman who became a judge. It is a story about courage, about resilience, about standing up for what is right, even when the world is against you. It is a story about how one person can change the world, one gentle step at a time. It is a story about hope, about dreams, about the power of never giving up. It is a story about the importance of kindness, of fairness, of treating others with dignity and respect, And this story is about you, too. You have the power to be brave, to be kind, to chase your dreams. You have the power to make a difference, just like Sandra did. You may face barriers, you may face doubt, you may face people who tell you you're not good enough, but never give up. Remember, Sandra faced those same things, and she never gave up. She kept going, she kept fighting, she kept chasing her dream, and she made it come true. You can too. Remember, freedom is a gift, and so is your voice. Use it wisely, use it kindly, use it to stand up for what is right, to help others, to make a difference. Remember that you are loved, that you are capable, that your dreams matter. Remember that you can be anything you want to be, if you work hard, if you never give up, if you believe in yourself. Now, my darling, let us drift back to the present. The moon is still shining outside your window, soft and warm, casting silvery streaks across your bed. The world is quiet, and you are safe, wrapped in love. Sandra's story is a gift to you, a reminder that you are capable of anything, that you are loved, that your dreams matter. It is a story that will linger in your heart, a spark of hope, a reminder of courage, a lullaby of love. Close your eyes, my sweet. Let the quiet of the night wrap around you, like a soft blanket, warm and cozy. Let the story of Sandra Day O'Connor linger in your heart. Let her courage inspire you. Let her kindness comfort you. Let her hope fill you. Let go of the day's worries. Let go of your fears. Let go of everything that weighs on your heart. Breathe in the cool night air. Breathe out the stress and the tension. Sleep well, my dear. Dream of brave women, of fair laws, of a world where everyone is treated with kindness and respect, of a world where your dreams come true. That I love you more than words can say. More than the stars in the sky, more than the sand on the beach, more than the love Sandra had for her family, more than the courage she showed to the world. I love you with all my heart, with all my soul, with every fiber of my being. And tomorrow, when you wake up, remember, you are brave, you are strong, you are capable of changing the world. You are a gift, just like Sandra, just like the story we told tonight. Good night, my sweet. Sleep tight. May your dreams be filled with light and hope, with courage and kindness, with love and joy. May you wake up refreshed, renewed, ready to chase your dreams, ready to make a difference, ready to shine your light in the world. I love you, my darling. Good night.